You know, I'd always hoped that right before I died, my life would flash before my eyes, and I would see wonderful things. But as I was hanging up there, I didn't really see much of anything. But I did see you. This is crazy. I thought you were dead. Am I dead? I don't think so. You're talking. Hi. You're special. I'm special. You're like the multi-purpose tool guy. And that's why I need you to help me get home.
You want to go home so you can have love. But you ran away because nobody loves you.
Shut up! You can't just say everything that comes into your head. That's bad talking.
Oh.
Oh! It's moving!
What's happening?
Manny, I think your Wang is guiding us home. It's magic. People don't like other people's farts.
Is that why you don't fart in front of me?
I just like to do it alone. Or hold it in. That's what you're supposed to do.
That's so sad.
We sang and we danced, and it was beautiful. God, no. Well, don't be afraid.
Hey, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Guys, I said this to you in the green room, and I'm going to say it one more time. Congratulations on being a part of what is probably the most original, inventive, crazy, wonderful movie of the year. It's a marvel that a movie like this got made. Congratulations. Thank you so much for making it.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. We had a great time.
So, we only have a limited amount of time really to talk about this, but really take me back to the beginning of getting this script, getting it pitched to you. What were the first words that were told to you that you read when you got this project?
Well, you got it. You were there first.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to sum up the pitch is that the Daniels said they wanted to make a film where the first fart makes you laugh and the last fart makes you cry. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in. Like, it sounded like the best movie ever if it could ever be done.
Well, that's the thing, if it could ever be done, and what made you sort of really have faith in these two guys? It's their first movie. What made you have faith in the men that said to you, the first fart makes you laugh and the last fart makes you cry?
Well, I mean, they give you a huge amount of confidence when you meet them because they so clearly know the film they want to make inside and out, and that sort of means that you go, okay, I can put myself in your hands and go on this crazy journey. But it wasn't. I feel like everybody thinks this film must have been a really tough thing to sell to actors, but it absolutely wasn't. Like, when you read something that is this kind of strikingly original and it stands out a mile, and I think for me and Paul, that's one of the key things that we're looking for in a movie is to the chance to do something really fresh and that hasn't been done before. So when that chance appears like this, and it's so obvious that there has been nothing else like this, you just gotta grab it with both hands.
And you sort of go back and look at their work and be like, oh, they do achieve the impossible a lot of times, even just with their music videos. And you sort of, that's where you get a little bit of the faith.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw the music video for Turn Down for What, but it was like a big, thing. And if they pitched you that video, you would be like, that's a stupid idea. Like, that's not gonna work. Yet it does, and they will say this about themselves. It's like, their ideas are bad ideas that end up being kind of beautiful. And so, yeah, you kind of, look at their stuff and you go, yeah, I want to take this leap.
I mean, so there's a lot of farts in the movie. There's a lot of a cappella singing that me and Paul do. There's Cotton Eye Joe, the song, is like a refrain throughout the film. And at one point, Dan Kwan, one of the Daniels, our directors, said that he sort of revealed to me at certain points that he hates the song Cotton Eye Joe.
Oh, who, of course.
He hates a cappella singing, and he hates body humor and fart jokes, basically. And so I was like, why did you make a film that is mainly comprised of those things? And he was like, well, because if we make a film filled with things that we hate, we have to make it the best possible version of that film in order for us not to hate it, which is like the hardest way of making a movie, I think. But it works for them, and they are much, braver and more imaginative.
Well,
than
it's
I am.
one thing to walk into a room and say the first fart funny, the last fart sad. It's another thing to say, I'm going to make Cotton Eye Joe beautiful. I would say, get the fuck out of here. There's no way.
Yeah.
But they do it. They make Cotton Eye Joe this sort of beautiful reoccurrence within the film. Now, I know that there is a body double for you in the movie. You've done a fair amount of press with the body double. To be honest, I'm a little disappointed he's not sitting on the stage with us
I'm
right
sorry.
now.
He's very heavy.
How did it come down to deciding when you weren't going to sort of be using that body double on the set? And also, talk to me, the both of you, about the dynamic that you sort of had to create on how you were doing a lot of these scenes. Because in a number of scenes, you're limp, you're playing dead.
Yeah, I mean, the body double, I was obviously like, I wanted to be doing as much as physically possible myself. And so, and to be honest, like, the dummy didn't get used that much. The only times really we're using it are when, like, if it's being thrown down a mountain, then it's the dummy and it's not me. And the only other time was when, like,
A 4-foot stick is getting shoved down its mouth or something.
that's me. No, that was me. That was shot in reverse, and that was me. Yeah. And it's me. I do want to say it's me on the ocean at the beginning when Paul's like riding me. That was me. And I want to take credit. I don't want this dummy getting all the credit. But then when the raccoon was attacking Manny, then that was a dummy as well. And raccoons are vicious.
You didn't do your own gas jet engine from your butt, though.
No, I didn't. They built that.
They had to build. They made a molding of Daniel's butt and
Yeah.
put a pipe through it.
If you think he's joking, he's not.
And it
He's because
blasted air out of the back.
Well, yeah, because there's an element of everyone said, well, we don't really. They said at one point they were like, we don't really need to like do a mold of your ass. We can just make an ass and we'll just have that bit. And I was like, but if it's supposed to be mine, I would rather have it be mine than like have you make one and me not be happy with it. Like I'd rather it be me up there or something that's based on me.
Within the film, farts go on, and we'll talk about more than farts. The movie is about so much more than that, and that's kind of where this question goes, is that farts are about so much more by the midway point in the movie, and especially by the end of the film. They represent such a greater theme within the film about innocence, childhood, and who we grow up to be, and how the outside world sort of looks at the internal us, or our individual self. But what do farts mean to you guys personally? What did they mean to you before this movie?
I mean, yeah, I don't know what it says about, me when the human farting jet ski is the kind of thing you read and just want to do. Like I read that scene and, had the feeling, like I felt protective of it immediately. I was like, I don't want anybody else doing that. Like if anybody's gonna ride a, farting human jet ski, it's gonna be me. So I don't think they meant much except for a laugh, But I like, that we could get so much out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I always like the I think I'm probably going to paraphrase it wrong, but the Louis C.K. line of you don't have to be smart to laugh at fart jokes, but you have to be stupid not to.
100%.
And I feel like there's a lot of that, and also as you're saying, like the farts kind of come to represent stuff that is universal. Like we all do that, and we're all taught that it's like slightly embarrassing and that we should be maybe a little bit ashamed of it, but like it's the most human of human things. And there's a lot of other stuff that kind of is related to that, like whether it's sort of your own mental eccentricities or other stuff with your body that you're uncomfortable with, that that because we don't talk about these things and we're sort of encouraged not to talk about them, that you can really start to believe it's something that only affects you, and the power of like identifying with the fact that like we're all weird. That's ultimately what the message of the film is. We're all weird, and the more accepting we are of each other's and our own weirdness, the sort of happier.
And every fart's different.
Every fart's different. No two
Individual
they're like
snowflake.
snowflakes. Yeah, absolutely.
So how was it sort of performing with Daniel because a large part of the time you are a dead body, but you are moving, you do talk a fair amount there, you do start expressing yourself, but there is a good portion of the movie where he is a dead body. How was that for you as an actor? Were you excited by that challenge going into it?
Yeah, I mean, the whole film, as fun as it is, as joyful as it is, as funny as it is, it was actually incredibly challenging. Not just physically sort of carrying Daniel around for like 5 weeks in the woods, but actually like sort of emotionally. The film kept revealing itself in new ways, and I was constantly surprised by it. And luckily, it's two of us for a lot of the film, and luckily I, had a great scene partner, whether he was dead or alive. It's not an easy part. It's not easy to do what Daniel does in this, and we really had to depend on each other, in all those scenes. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I was very lucky to work with Paul as well, because there is if there's a moment where like I can't move, and yet halfway through a scene I'm supposed to have go from looking there to looking there, but I can't move, so it's sort of we would work out like what's a good point for either me to engineer a fall or for Paul to like accidentally like jog me, and then that moves my head. So we would sort of work on the choreo. At the beginning, I think we sort of would touch on choreography and things before we would start a scene, and then by the end I feel like we'd both grown very comfortable with each other to the point where like Paul knew if he was gonna, if he touched my face or my head in some way, that I would respond appropriately in the scene, and it could be a lot more sort of free flowing.
Now, when I was chatting with you in the green room briefly, I kept asking questions about their vision on set or how they worked on set, and you told me that they work completely differently than you would ever expect, the way that the film was made, the directors.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you would watch the film and it's a lot of fun, so you would expect them to be a lot of fun, and they are, and they create an amazingly fun, sort of joyous atmosphere. But they're also like, they're not just like screwing around. Like these guys know exactly what they want and know how to get it, and are some of them. And I think their grounding in music videos means that they've been used to doing a lot of really ambitious stuff with very little money or time or resources, and so that's forced them to become really inventive and technically really highly skilled filmmakers. And they never disagree, which I had no experience working with a pair of directors before, but I'd always thought, oh, what if they disagree with each other? But they never. I said that to Dan Kwan at one point. I was like, you guys have never had like a disagreement about anything on the whole time we've been on set? And they said, well, no, because we spend the year before filming disagreeing about literally everything, and then by the time we get to set, we're on the same page.
Had either of you worked with co-directors before?
Yeah, I have a few times, yeah. And it's always, sort of a weird, sort of magical thing that, and especially with this film, just even seeing the trailer, that two people thought of this and agree on all of the choices made, it's really like, it's very lucky they sort of found each other. And I think they give each other a gift, in having that other person to say, no, that is a good idea, because, and I think that's part of actually what the film is about, is just sort of like being your fullest self, and how shame kind of prevents us from that. And I feel like, they kind of have each other to go, no, dude, yeah, like that is like a great idea. And just sometimes following through on the first one of those good ideas is all you need. Then you're off to the races. But we need our friends or our, loved ones or our family or whoever that, or some random guy, on the street to sometimes go like, yeah, all right, do it.
I love the ambiguity of who Manny is by the end of the film without giving anything away, but I love how much it's possible that he's just so much of a projection for your character, and it's so much of what he's going through and what's happening in his life, and he sort of needs to see it played out on somebody else, and how it reveals who he is to himself. It's just a really beautiful narrative, again, within this movie that has a farting corpse and boners. Like it's so fun to say that this movie has a farting corpse and boners, and then has all of these beautiful threads woven within it.
Yeah, I mean that's
Really a question. Sorry.
yeah. No, that's but I agree, and I think that's sort of one of the most exciting things about seeing the film is that I think everybody's going to get their own piece of themselves in it and from it, and I think they're going to probably like feel more than they're sort of expecting to, even based on the trailer.
Absolutely. I would agree with that 100%. I went into the screening a week or two ago thinking of it as the Farting Corpse movie, but I was extremely moved halfway through the movie. I thought it was a really beautiful portrait of these two friends and isolation and sadness and the individual trying to figure out who he is. When it premiered at Sundance, had you guys seen it before the premiere at Sundance?
Yeah, I'd seen it. I don't think it was like finished, but yeah, I'd seen a version of it. Yeah.
And there was, upon the first screening, there was like talk of walkouts and people freaking out. And then it turns out like 2 days later, everyone was like, no one really walked out. We all love this movie, right?
Yeah, it was a weird thing where it's like, I think the film started slightly late, and it's a film festival, so like it's full of distributors and producers who have got like 1 million screenings to go to. So like some people probably did walk out, and then like somebody writes on Twitter like people are outraged and like leaving, and then like that one tweet becomes the narrative that everyone jumps on, and it's sort of. But what I'm really pleased is the fact that within the course of the festival, like. There was like the backlash, and then the backlash against the backlash just sort of happened all in one go, where people were, as much as some people were going, what the hell is this, and I think that was mainly as a consequence of not having even the faintest idea. Like, okay, so the day before we premiered at Sundance, there had been like articles in Vanity Fair saying things like 16 films that might be at the Oscars next year, and I read that and I was like, you don't know what we've done. Like, it's a great movie, but it's just not that kind of movie. And so
like you and the sort of traditional historical epic that you're
Yeah.
nominated for Best Picture.
just not gonna happen. So like. So I think people who had been going in thinking that they were going to see like a very serious take on like, I don't know, a Castaway type film or something, and actually it's something much more anarchic than that. And by the time we got to the second screening the next night, when people had a little bit more of an idea what they were in for, it was just like people were super into it.
I would say anarchic, but I would say more of what audiences actually want to see now. I think the bigger studios are very afraid of making something like this, but something like this you're going to see, I think, over the course of time is going to be viewed by more and more people. People care about seeing something different than they do about seeing the new historical epic that's nominated for Best Picture and then goes away that year.
I hope so.
That's usually what happens to those movies.
Oh yeah.
When you're on set and you're shooting this movie, how detailed are the quants? How in camera are all of the effects that are going on?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, that's what's really fun for us as actors and for the crew and for everybody's that's there like busting their butt every day, is that so much of this like people saw come to life on set. So everybody knows the movie they're making. It's not just like a piece of green screen and like, oh, trust us, like we're gonna get it later.
Tennis ball, guys.
So there's a scene where you can see in the trailer, Manny, Daniel's corpse character, ends up carrying water in him, and they hooked up a water hose into Daniel's mouth, and the water came out of his mouth and into a cup, and I drank it, and that's like the scene, and it looks kind of awesome, but like it's so practical. So I think it's got like a sort of old school magic to it.
That was the one scene in the movie, out of everything that happens in the movie, that was the one moment where I had like
Yeah, I had that moment too. Yeah,
it's funny
when
because
doing it.
Because I don't have that moment doing it because I didn't have to drink it. I was just coming out of my mouth. But for me, it's a moment that, because I could, at the time, I remember that scene. I remember, as the water was coming out, bits of it was going back into my mouth, and I would like taste it, and it was completely fresh water and fine. So it's like, for me, there wasn't anything gross about it. And then watching the film, it's so spectacularly gross, and like watching people react to that moment is, I'm a sadist, but it's I like watching that.
Daniel, you're definitely doing something different with your voice to play the dead body, different with your body. How did you find that? Because you kind of could have gone into it and been like, oh, the body is now alive. I can just I can play a character or play me to a degree. But you actually sort of follow through with this sort of monotone voice and discovering the world around him.
Well, yeah, I suppose it was sort of a combination of like thinking, okay, it's a fun sort of imaginative exercise of like, if you're a dead person, how would you talk? Well, he's pushing on your belly to make air go through. You know, what is sound? Sound is air passing over the vocal cords. That's all it needs. So like, the sort of idea of just it being kind of a wheezy voice at first, like he can only talk if air is passing through, so he sort of is reliant on that, and then sort of elements of like rigor mortis will have set in, so like that makes it harder for him to talk, and so just to sort of imagine things like that. Like, the thing is, there's no wrong answers. Like, this is not a thing that actually exists, so I can't really do it wrong. I just have to make sure it's like interesting and as you say, consistent and sort of follows the whole way through. But yeah, it was just a matter of sort of trial and error and just like throwing stuff out there, and I would do like a little video of myself and then send it to the Daniels when we were in prep for the film before we started, and they would send back like, yeah, that's the vocal tone is good, but you're a little too articulate or whatever. So we were just like trying to work on it before we got there. But it was really only when I got there and was working with Paul and the Daniels that it was like, okay, this is all making sense now. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, there's a New York Magazine article about you that came out, I think yesterday or today, where you said that your family approves your scripts or something, or you give them your
that's
scripts?
come up a couple times today. They don't approve it. It's not like I'm just like, hey, Mum, can I do this? It's more like it's more like my dad used to be a literary.
My apologies.
No. Sorry, that was you were getting something because somebody else asked me in a less polite way than you just did earlier, so I think you're getting my latent reaction to them. But no, my dad used to be a literary agent, so he's got a very good eye for scripts, and so we talk about all the scripts that come in and sort of go back and forth, and they. Again, I think everyone would expect that this is the kind of film that one's parents would be apprehensive about one doing, but I've got very supportive and eccentric parents, apparently, who were like, yeah, do it.
They read the script and they were just like, this is great, of course.
Yeah, because again, when you read as much stuff as my dad has read in his life, originality is, it stands out.
Now, I feel like since Harry Potter, you've sort of started doing a fair amount of indie films, smaller films, quirkier for lack of a better word. And I feel like, Paul, you kind of grew up in the indie film world with LIE and Little Miss Sunshine. How has that been sort of like as you've gotten older? It seems like you started with big mainstream Harry Potter movies and transitioned to these other ones, and you've sort of stayed in the indie world. Have you tried to move into the you've been in some big mainstream movies as well, or do you sort of gravitate towards where you started as well, like sticking there?
Yeah, I think, so much of it for me is about the people I'm going to spend time with, the character that I'm going to spend time with. I think I like things that are sort of challenging, that's something that kind of, makes me get up in the morning in a more excitable way. I think I like a sort of healthy fear, so to speak. Like I like to feel a little scared. It makes me, want to be a better actor. Yeah, I guess, sometimes I think you do also what you like as an audience member, too, a little bit. This is the kind of film I thought I would like, seeing these guys work, the Daniels, and sort of, the imagination and the creative spirit of it and the sort of joy in it, so it wasn't about, right, is it a big or a small film, it was sort of about what it gives me and what I think it gives, other people.
Yeah, and I mean the same basically. I mean, I think you go where the scripts are, as opposed to I never think like, oh good, this is an indie movie, I want to do indie, or this is a studio movie, fantastic, I want to do that. It's more just like, do I or do I not like the script, and does that excite me? And it just so happens that I think people are willing to take more risks. Generally speaking, it's a generalization, but in the world of independent film, and so as people that are attracted to that, we end up working in that area more.
Now I'm going to turn over to the audience for Q&A, and I'm sure a lot of them here are big Harry Potter fans, but as a fan of There Will Be Blood, I just want to say to Paul, because I'm a huge fan of that movie, that's the best movie to come out in 20 years. Congratulations on that. But we'll turn it over to the Harry Potter fans now, too. First question.
Hey guys, thanks for coming out. this reminds me more of theater in terms of it just being you two guys, throughout the whole process. Did you approach it that way in rehearsing or getting to know each other?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was a conscious thing of like, let's think about this like theater, but I think there is something about it being just the two of us that sort of inherently makes that happen. And it is, and like I've always really loved like two-handers in theater or in film, so the chance to do one and just like get into that relationship was really exciting.
I think there was like a choreography, a performance art, like a dance element. There was a song element. There's a, the sort of, and so we did probably think about it / rehearse / prepare / execute it in slightly different ways than maybe other films, just because of the material.
In the best way, it has that sort of debut feature feel of a director that's like, I want to do everything I love about movies in my first movie. And they do it, and they accomplish it. Next question.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Hi.
I see from the trailer that it's a very technical movie with all the things you were discussing. What was the hardest scene to film, and also what was the easiest scene to film?
The hardest. I mean, it was all. I would say it was all like it wasn't easy, but it was really fun, and the challenge was fun. I mean, we were a small group in the woods on a tight budget in a small amount of time for what you see. I mean, I think the movie feels huge, when you see it. And I'm kind of amazed at what we were able to accomplish out there. I would say for me the most fun was riding across the ocean, a boogie board, Daniel lying on top of it, me sitting on top of Daniel, straddling him, being towed by a motorboat, singing at the top of our lungs. That was, it wasn't the easiest scene, but that was really fun.
Yeah, I like shed a tear that day that he's talking about. Like I was on set and Paul was being like on one of the shots where it was like Paul's close up, so I wasn't in the water, and I was like on the side of the boat just being like, yeah, go on, Paul. And there was this moment where Paul's like punching the air, and we had the music with us at that point, so the music's blaring out of speakers at the same time, and it was the closest I've ever seen. Like it was the slightest difference between what ends up on screen and what was actually there on the day that I've ever experienced, and that was like amazingly exciting. The hardest scene for me to film, I think, was there's a scene where Hank is trying to get Manny to eat and to learn about like loving food again, and they made this burger that I was supposed to eat, and they made one side of it, so it was like they were like, now I don't really like vegetables. I've got like not terrible diet, but like I don't eat a lot of them. And anyway, so they were like, so they said like one side of the burger that was to camera was like full of like bones and animal fur and stuff like that obviously you couldn't put in your mouth. And then they were like, oh, the other side's great. The other side's just like a mushroom burger with like some other stuff that they named that I find disgusting. And then and they were like, so it's great. So you can really eat that side. And I was like, okay, cool. Thank you so much. You've made this specially. That's really kind of you. And then like having to eat that and pretend that I was just loving it. That was one of the main challenges of this film.
Next question.
Hey, how are you guys?
Hey, man.
All right, so my question, first off, I'm a huge fan of your work. I've seen almost everything from David Copperfield to
Well, you can't have seen this yet, but it's almost there. But it's,
I haven't seen it yet.
Awesome, thank you.
So my question to you is, how does this film rank on your favorites, from Harry Potter to everything?
Like, it's maybe the very, very top, honestly.
Awesome, can't wait to see it.
I really think it's, there was one of the things, when I finished doing this film, when I saw it, I was overwhelmed with a sense of like, because I want to direct and I want to write, but there was a part of me that was like, even if I never get to do any of those things, these guys have made a film that accurately, in some way, projects some of my feeling about life and the world onto screen. And if I never get to do that myself, at least I've been involved with what these guys have done. Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question.
Hi, my name's Taylor. I'll be attending NYU for film in the fall. And as an aspiring film producer, my question to you guys is, with big budget superhero movies and animated movies dominating the box office and TV offering content as good as any film, how do you see the future of low budget filmmaking like Swiss Army Men?
It's a great question.
Oh, you just finished a miniseries, right? You just did the War and Peace miniseries?
Tough question. Yeah, I did. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, one thing I love about this film is that it is a superhero film in some ways, and it is an animated film in other ways. Like, it's like a live-action animated film. And, I definitely still think we have to find a way for that medium to still be healthy and exist, because I think, a lot of people still need to find their voice, and the opportunity to create something that is singular or has a true point of view from the person making it. And you're not always going to get that with the television series or the superhero film. You do with some of them, but maybe not all of them. So, our next great artists have to start somewhere. And I know, I'm just like a huge fan of like the 90-minute to 3-hour film medium, So, as far as I don't want it to go anywhere. So, just gonna try to keep doing it.
Yeah, and I would agree. And I don't know. I think that as long as there are original voices like the Daniels, and I feel like there's a sense that like with films now, you have to sort of play it safe, and you have to, in order for them to be successful, you have to sort of guess what your audience wants and try and do that, rather than just having your own vision and hoping that people follow you. And I think that's a very powerful thing. And if you don't ever challenge what audiences see, then I don't know. I think it's people like the Daniels and us, and it's our responsibility to kind of show people that interesting, crazy stuff still can get made. And this film, to me, is like a testament to that. The fact that it, as you alluded to in the introduction, the fact that it exists at all is a huge triumph. And, the fact that so far people seem to be liking it as well just speaks to the fact that, originality is never going to go out of style no matter what medium it comes into.
Miracle. I would say miracle that it got made, because it's so crazy and beautiful and original. And I have to let you guys go, but the film's in limited release right now, and it opens nationwide on Friday, I believe, right?
You're right. That sounds right.
All right. Congratulations, guys. Swiss Army Man.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.